So this is Christopher Clausen with the Breaking Rules Publishing Inkers podcast. Today we have with us Timothy Wilkie. Timothy is I just found this out, a multi-purpose author and painter and apparently musician. So we've got lots to talk about today, all of my three favorite subjects. So let's do work with authoring first. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from and all that good stuff?
Well, I was originally I was raised in Arizona. My father was one of those people that in the early 60s decided that there was a big push going to move to Arizona, and he moved us out into the middle of the desert. Basically, there was no place for miles.
My father did that to us as well. So although he was in California, he moved us to literally Death Valley. Go ahead. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I think our high school or our grade school probably had the lowest skip rate because there was no place to go to. What were you going to do, sit in a rock in the desert? The only closest thing to us was a copper mining pit.
Oh, wow.
Open pit, which nowadays is freaking frowned on. But yeah, and then I came back to the Woodstock Festival in the late 60s and was one of those bands that broke down on the New York State Thruway and just left it there because it was a piece of junk, and been here in New York ever since. Met a girl at the festival, we married, and I had 2 sons.
Wow.
And all the time, I was a nurse for years, but always wrote, always did the music on the side. The art was fairly new, but because I always kind of considered my older brother the artist, so I didn't want to interfere with his.
Stay in your own lane, right?
Yeah.
David tells me
I didn't want to take his thunder.
David tells me that all the time. He's like, stay in your own lane, man. Just you do the books, I'll do the art, we'll be fine. Stay in your own lane. So you met your wife at the literally out in the middle of a field?
Oh yeah, and it was raining.
Oh my gosh.
And it was, we ended up going to a place, moving to a place called, where she was living at the time, called Crow Hill Commune. And I went there was about 20 people like us just hanging out. And there was 5 places that you could actually officially sleep in the house without sleeping on the floor or sleeping outside. And that was the tub. There was 2 couches in the living room, and there was 2 bedrooms with single beds.
Wow.
If you didn't get one of the beds early enough, you were on the floor outside.
Wow. So you were a flower child.
Oh yeah. Yep.
That's so crazy. You still have that same mindset?
Very much so. I'm really not that far here from Woodstock, even though Woodstock, New York isn't so much the
it's not that big of a thing anymore.
It's the commercial capital.
That's cool. So let's talk about your first book, shall we?
Sure. The first one that we put out was Corn Maze. And that was basically based on some activity that I had done. Got a huge corn maze. Corn mazes are big up in the Northeast.
Yeah, they are.
And spent a lot of time either working on them for different farmers, volunteering to help, or walking through them with different class groups that I took through. So it was, the idea was there, and I'm Native American by descent.
That makes sense then.
Connect a little bit of legend into there, and that was the whole idea for the corn maze.
That's cool. Very good. And then how did Breathless come along with the crown? So let me just go from, I'm looking at your covers images now. We went from the corn maze to the scary clown on Breathless. Right.
Well, Breathless, actually, that was the whole idea of that actually came from my father-in-law, because he's a clown with the Masons.
Really?
My kids, when they were little, were terrified of him. It was like he would cut, because to him, he was from the generation where clowns, everybody likes clowns. Both my boys even my oldest now, who's in the military, in fact, he's actually down in DC, he's still terrified of clowns. So it just seemed like that's why I made him the grandfather and the whole thing, because basically because of their connection with it. Not that he was that way at all, but I got to give the man credit. He was actually a great guy.
Yeah, that's cool. That actually, and it's interesting because as I'm looking at it now, the picture's not that scary.
No.
It's just the idea, and this is my fault because American Horror Story, the whole circus, whatever the circus thing was that they had, and the clown that was in there, and he was crazy, man. That's the first thing and the last thing I think about. No matter what clown it is, it's just terrible. So,
well, it's funny because years ago, I mean, I worked with the Devereaux Foundation for a long time too, which is working with students and stuff, special need kids, and they were going to have a great big kind of indoor circus, and they had to cancel it not because the kids didn't want the clowns there, but there was too many staff that refused to go to
really
to take their kids to the circus because of the clowns. I was like, that's crazy. These are adults, for God's sakes. But yeah, well, I don't think the movies like Poltergeist and things helped. I mean,
no, that's very true.
The bed and dragging him.
Hold on one second. Sorry. Go ahead.
Life goes on.
I know.
Certainly does. I'm surprised I haven't received a call from one of my sons during this whole thing. It always happens.
It does always happen when you're trying to
for weeks. And the minute I start doing something.
How many? You have two sons?
I have two sons.
How old are they?
One's, God, he's 40 now. Oh. He's been in the military. He's a lifer in the Army. In fact, he's down in DC right now with the National Guard down there. And the youngest is, I think he just turned 30. This is terrible. Just turned 30 or 29, and he's a manager for all-night Extra Mart food store. In fact, actually, he's the manager for the one that's been robbed the most in New York State.
Oh, wow, that's not good.
Yeah, I didn't like it either.
No. I made it easy for myself. I had 4 children in 4 years, so it's 30, 31, 32, 33. So.
Oh my God! No, there was 11. Actually, it was weird because it wasn't planned this way. But between my oldest sister and I, there was 11 years, and between Justin and Blake, there's 11 years.
Wow. My oldest brother and I have 12 days. He and I are the same age. He and I are the same age for 12 days.
Now, what was that? You were twins or?
Nope. No. He was born on the 31st of March in 1961. I was born on the 19th of March, 1962. So I have.
Oh, okay.
He hasn't turned 60 yet, and we'll be the same age.
Yeah, my brother Greg and Miles were a year apart, and since the oldest one, Miles, had failed a class, they were in the same grade all the way through school.
Oh, that must be hard.
Oh, they didn't like each other. I mean, they just didn't get along.
Funny.
I mean, they were two different crowds that they hung out with, and like.
So upriver, one of my favorite covers, by the way.
Oh yeah, that was my that came from a dream. It's I wanted to do something sci-fi because my love my whole life has been science fiction, and I got the idea for that, and I went over it and over it and over it, and I thought, because science fiction was harder for me to get into than the horror aspect of things. So I mean, I was kind of lucky with that, with the magazines and stuff. And when I kept thinking, they're going to just keep turning me down because I don't have enough science knowledge behind things. but nah, it worked out.
The stories that I write are all very everyday, and they're all about the people, the stories that are behind, just like we were talking about how you met your wife at Woodstock. Those
Right.
kinds of stories. That's what I like to write about. All those things that nobody really knows until you actually ask them. People
Right.
who can write science fiction and actually create these different worlds and these different beings and languages and whatever and spaceships that fly. I don't have that capability. I don't know what that's all about. But it's kind of like horror. I don't have that sense of trying to scare people to create that whole drama behind what a horror story would be like. I applaud people who do. I just don't have it.
My first wife, I used to tell her when we argued, I'd say, "You wouldn't believe the things I'm thinking."
I'm sure.
In my head. He'd go, "You never talk. You're always just sitting there." I said, "Well, you wouldn't believe the things that go."
I can't tell you what's in my head. You'd be running away from me.
that was basically it. And she brought that up years later. I mean, we're friends now, but she brought that up years later. You know, that used to scare me when you said that.
Oh.
I didn't mean I was going to act on it.
You know, it's funny that you say that because I'm continually asking David. I said, what's going on now? What you got going on over there? Because I want to know what he's thinking, because he's quiet. He's very quiet. And he's just, I'm just thinking, I'm like, about? And I have to pull it out of him to say, I'm thinking about this painting, or this didn't work, or I have to do this or whatever. And it's like, oh dear God. And me, on the other hand, I'm just like gushing. I have like diarrhea at the mouth all the time, always talking about something. And he just doesn't, he's not keeping
a penny for your thoughts.
Yes, I always cost a penny. I'll give it to you for free.
Right. I'm just giving it out there.
That's very funny. So let's talk about artwork now. So you have so much artwork that you sent us for someday. I love it all.
Right. I had an art shop for a while. Actually, it was in the process of my first divorce, and what happened is we were doing paintings. I was selling some of the paintings, and my son had a what do we think, comic book type thing in front, and we lost everything. I mean, everything was gone. What you're seeing now is probably.
What you mean you lost everything? What does that mean? People came and stole it all?
No, all the paintings were destroyed in fire and water damage.
Oh, that's too bad.
And I mean, what you're seeing now is probably about maybe a 16th of what we had originally. I mean, we lost everything. We lost the building pretty much. So, and at the time, seeing that my insurance had lapsed, because was an idiot as far as that was concerned, we never really got the full extent of the value.
That's too bad.
So I went to work for a lodge up in Hunter Mountain, up in the middle of the Catskills, for 3 years. And then fell off the mountain, broke a lot of bones, was for 5 years, they said I was legally blind until they operated on my eyes here a few years ago.
Wow.
So, yeah, I fell 30 feet onto the rocks.
So you've kind of had, I tell people this all the time. I've lived several lives. You have too. You've lived a lot.
Oh, yeah. I've had a few of them. In fact, I have a few of them going right in my head right now.
I know how you feel. That's true.
But all in all, I've been blessed because, I mean, I'm walking again. And there was a time, I mean, they told me on the way down in the ambulance from the mountain, the guy said, we lost you there for a minute. You're back.
Wow.
I mean, it's so backcountry up there that they didn't even have a paramedic with the fire department. We had to stop on the way down in a village and meet one.
Wow.
So I was like, on the way down the hill, I'm saying goodbye to my whole family in my mind because I'm thinking, this guy isn't going to show up.
So I understand totally what you're saying. We were in the Berkshires a year and a half ago, and we were only there for 3 or 4 months, and it was one of those things where you have to drive an hour for a gallon of milk, kind of thing. And
Yep.
no,
Where were you at in the
my
Berkshires?
we were in oh God, what is the name of the stupid town we were in?
Egremont?
Not far from there. We were not far from
Okay.
Egremont, actually. Oh goodness gracious!
I had a club that I.
Places. Now I've lost it. I'll remember it in a minute.
Well, you got Leeds, you got Great Barrington up there.
We were right next to Great Barrington.
Yep. There's a club up in Great Barrington. I used to have my own band, and we would work our jobs during the day, and at night put the kids in the back of the Suburban. We had set up a place for them to sleep, because you had to book at clubs at night, because that's the only time you could talk to the managers. So my wife and I would drive around at night, kids sleeping in the back, and one of us would run a tape into the manager of the club.
What
Crazy.
is the name of this stupid town? I'm actually looking it up at the moment because I just have to know now. I forgot. It's only been a year. How can I have forgotten where we lived? It really was. It was just one of those drive-through kind of towns. It didn't have much.
Right.
It was right next to Great Barrington, and then Lee is right after that, and Lennox. Isn't it funny that I can remember all that? I never lived in Great Barrington.
Well, that's become quite the art town now.
Yes, Sheffield. It was Sheffield.
Sheffield, yes, been there many times.
Yep.
In fact, actually, if you go right, you go into Sheffield. If you go left, you go into Great Barrington.
Yes, exactly. So there was, if you remember Great Barrington, there's you know where the police station is there?
Yep.
Okay, if you go 3 doors down on the right, there's this old, really old house. It's called the 1802 house.
Right.
David and I ran it. It was a bed and breakfast, and we ran that for a while.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
We enjoyed it. It was just, if it didn't take so long to get to a gallon of milk, it would have been different, but it was just too much, you know?
Yeah, I mean, for years, I mean, we had what they used to call, because I was when I came back here, we lived just north of Red Hook in New York. And I mean, after 6 o'clock on a Sunday night, there was nothing open. If you needed, this was before the days of the Extra Marts and stuff. The only place that was open was Silver Lake Dairy, and they had a milk machine in the front, which you put the money in, it dropped a bottle down, you know, and so many times it'd be, oh, you better go get milk for the kids tomorrow for breakfast.
See? And then and the deal is, if you go to the grocery store and you're 2/3 of the way back and you sit and think, you know, I forgot butter. I have to have butter. You can't.
Right.
It's an hour back, and then an hour. It's a 2-hour drive there and back just for a thing of milk or butter. It just makes no sense, and people do it. It's because they're used to it.
Right.
Coming from, you know, we used to live in New York City, and you go down to the corner and you can pick up whatever you need, that kind of thing.
Yeah, 24 hours a day, you just walk outside.
And then it was, the other thing is, it was so dark. It's like, oh my God, I am not a dark sleeper either, so I had lights on everywhere. Just drove him out of his mind. So
And there's a lot of people that, in fact, for years there was a poem or a kind of a story that went around about a couple moving upstate from the city. And at first they're so, oh, we had deer in the yard today. Oh, we got our first snowstorm. And then as time goes on, you hear, if I see another one of those dang deer in the yard, and if that plows me in one more time.
Exactly. Yeah, it's true.
I know guys that drive the snowplows that see how many mailboxes they can knock over at night. Something to keep them amused.
Something to keep them amused, right? Because it's a hard job. I agree with them.
I love the pictures you send from down in Florida.
I will
right
say,
on the coast there,
I
right?
enjoy where we're living, so it's really cool. The coast is nice, and we're literally right on the beach, so that's always really good. And I get to watch the sun come up every day, so that's a wonderful thing.
That's nice. That's nice. A little worried when the storms come in, but
you know, everyone has said that so far because of what we have. there's like a 12-foot embankment.
Mm-hmm.
But we're here, and then you go down 12 feet, and then there's the water.
Right.
So the waves have to be at least 12 feet high before they're actually going to get over our embankment. So we're actually in a pretty good spot compared to a lot of other people down here. So we've been here so far and had 2 hurricanes that really haven't done much. I mean, we had to move our furniture off the patio so that it wouldn't fly into the pool, but that was pretty much it. So we're okay.
Really?
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, well, you know, I think a lot of times some of the weather channels make more situations, because, you know, you got to sell news. You know, but
Well, I'll tell you a story. When we were in St. Petersburg, we were living on Treasure Island, right on the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. And our first hurricane that we had, I was like, David, this is like a bad storm up in Michigan. This is like no big deal. So we walked down to the water so we could see, and the waves were gushing, and it was all over the place, and it looked like it was an angry hurricane, but there wasn't that bad. And then you could see it. We saw a couple of things of lightning out there, and I said, we probably ought to go. Before I even had a chance to turn around, the wind had come up, lifted us off our feet. We were running to the next building so that we could get behind it and not have to. It was crazy. Yeah. So you know, those things you can't play with nature. You know, you've got to respect it. And
well, that's the thing that out in Arizona growing up. I mean, you had the sandstorms.
Oh yeah.
And you would see them coming over the mountains, and I mean, they were just huge. I mean, they would block out everything. I mean, I'd heard stories of people that had their cars completely sanded off. They go out, they had no paint on their car.
It's true. We were in a little town called Trona, which was Death Valley was here, the mountain.
Oh.
We were on the other side of it, so Trona was right here, literally Death Valley, hotter than all get outs. And you're right, the sandstorms would come through, and you didn't stand out in it because it would pelt you like there's no tomorrow. It was dangerous, and it was
where you were in Death Valley. I mean, you weren't too far from Death Valley. That's considered the hottest place in the United States.
Yeah, it was hot. It was really hot.
That's like
it was funny because when we were kids, we would always gather up these what we thought were toads. They're called horny. We called them horny toads because they looked like frogs, but they had little horns on the top of them.
Yep, I'm familiar with them.
Yep, they were horny toads.
As kids, we used to catch scorpions and sell them to the university because they use them for taking the poison for venom. And it's just a matter of a coffee can. Everybody thinks it's so silly, but it's just a matter of a coffee can. You see a scorpion.
Put them under, slide it up,
and you push the dirt. Yep.
That's right. Easy as it is.
Stink to the dirt. So
it's funny. Spiders would be a really good example. And I'm using David a lot, but I have to today. Mm-hmm. He is terrified of crawly things. So we've had a spider, and I'm like, David, it's just a spider. And I would get a jar, and I put a little piece of paper under it, and I take it outside. And he's like, I don't know how you do that. They're not faster than you are. They're little bitty things. All you have to do is put it on there, and you're done. You just have to.
Yeah. Well, people don't realize too that with scorpions and stuff, the bigger they are, the less dangerous they are.
Right. It's the little ones you have to worry about.
Yeah, it's the tiny ones, and the ones that the especially the shops want, different shops, so that they can make the belt buckles and stuff. They want the big ones. So if you find those, if you get stung, it's just like a bee sting.
Yeah,
it's no big deal.
It's no big deal.
Right.
Oh well.
I mean, you just get used to being out there. You leave your shoes or anything outside, you're gonna bang them before you
you put your feet in.
You're liable to have a visitor.
That's right. So you have these 3 books. Have you written anything else?
Actually, I have quite a few that I'm just waiting to submit later on. I have at least three more novellas.
Cool.
That and plus we have the other one that's in there now.
Yep.
Back.
I have that off to the formatter. Daniel's doing it, and it should be done like any day, so we should be good to go.
Yeah, I experimented with a little steampunk stuff in there.
That's
which
a couple people. Nick Gerard will love that.
Really? Yeah.
For those kind of guys.
It's like my son had to explain it to my youngest, Blake, had to explain it to me. Because it's like, It's all this steampunk stuff. And he says, well, Dad, just take the old West like and turn it just a little bit.
That's right. and modernize it a bit and use it, make it functional, and it'll be all right.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah, we between that and I keep busy right now. I mean, I'm retired, so I keep busy right now between the writing and doing my music. I play at a couple of clubs on the weekends and stuff, just, dinner stuff. Keeps me busy. I'm getting up for a while. I wasn't getting around too well, but now
Now you're doing it right.
They've been, as time progresses, it is true, everything heals.
That's right.
It may not heal exactly the way you want it to, but it heals.
Hey, that's just a matter. Everything's like that. When you get up in the morning, you got to figure out what you're going to do. Maybe you're going to have a stub toe, and you've got to figure out how to make it through the day with that. I mean, everything is that way.
Hey, I got a story. My brother-in-law, for years, would get out of bed, hear the alarm clock in the morning, get out of bed, stub his toe on the same dresser, jump around for 5 minutes, and I'd go, why don't you just move the
dresser? Why the dresser? That's crazy.
Almost every day, because I stayed with them for a while, and I'd hear him in there. I'd be like, just move one or the other.
What is that Einstein thing? Doing something the same over and over and over and expecting a different outcome is the definition of insanity.
That's absolutely true. That's true.
Tim, it's been really good to talk to you.
Same here, Chris. I mean, it's actually the first time we've gotten to talk.
Actually, you're right. You're right. We should do this more often.
Yes,
so
yes.
We're going to have an author salon tomorrow at 7:00. This gentleman is from, I lost where he is from, but he's in the South America right now. And he's going to talk to us about marketing our books and people who can look to a different way of marketing using nonprofits and whatnot to help them be seen by other people and the right people who are going to be beneficial for them. So we'll see how that goes. So he's supposed to be really good. You should join us.
Yeah, well, see, why I was a little late clicking on today was because I didn't realize the hookup with Zoom, so I had to do that quick in between. So now that I'm hooked up, it'll be
awesome. Good. Then hopefully we'll see you tomorrow, maybe.
Yes, yes. What time is that, Chris?
It's 7:00. 7:00 tomorrow.
Okay. Be talking to you soon.
All right. Have a good day, okay?
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.